In the frigid Arctic, where winds howl like knives and waves as high as buildings crash against the shore, a silent invasion is taking place. Not from humans, not carrying guns or bullets, but from a creature with 8 legs and 2 steel-sharp claws. From the distant Kamchatka region, a red storm has crossed the cold ocean, pouring into the Barents Sea. Millions of giant king crabs are gradually occupying the European seabed. More than 100 million euros, the huge toll that the Nordic seas have suffered as a result of this invasion, an economic wound that is growing wider and wider in the middle of the ocean. Is it Europe's battle for survival against a giant invader under stormy waters? Granddiscover, giant king crabs. Invasion, the 100 million euro invasion of Europe's Arctic waters.
Посмотри на эту особь. Размеры впечатляют.
Записываю. Пульс стабильный, но...
Прием. Повторите координаты. 14:05. Конец связи.
No one knows exactly who brought them to Europe, but all traces lead back to a bold decision more than half a century ago, when humans believed they could reshape nature.
Давай, ребята, шевелись! Осторожно, держи крепче там! Давай, мужики, быстрее! Держите крепче!
In the 1960s, as the Soviet Union sought to expand food sources in the Arctic, a group of scientists decided to move king crabs from Kamchatka to the Barents Sea, hoping to create a new biological gold mine.
Быстрее! Осторожно опускайте последний ящик.
Принято, товарищ капитан. Давай, опускай левее! Есть, держим! Осторожно там!
Hundreds of baby crabs were transported thousands of kilometers in cold water tanks, then released into the seas of Norway and Russia, where they had never existed before.
Get him out!
No one expected that the small experiment would start a giant chain reaction. The giant king crab, a master of survival, quickly adapted, reproduced uncontrollably, and began its journey to invade the cold ocean. No one expected that this small experiment would trigger a huge chain reaction. The giant king crab, a master of survival, quickly adapted, reproduced uncontrollably, and began its journey to invade the cold ocean. They began their journey to invade the cold ocean. From there, a silent empire was formed, quietly spreading, crossing borders, drowning all efforts to stop it. Humans brought them here, but now, who really controls the Arctic Ocean? From the remote fjords of Russia to the Norwegian Sea, giant king crabs weave through waves and sand, expanding their territories without anyone noticing. By the time humans realize what is happening, it is too late. The seabed has changed color. The fishing villages are quieter after each sea season, where each the sound of laughter and the roar of the train engines were gone. Now there was only the cold wind and the heavy sound of emptiness. The Nordic seas, which once fed hundreds of thousands of people, have now become a fierce biological battlefield. Ere the giant emperor devoured snails, mussels, starfish, and soft corals, tiny creatures that were the foundation of the ecosystem. According to economists, the damage caused by these crabs exceeds 100 million euros a year, and that figure continues to rise as they move further into Europe. They not only destroy the seabed, but also destroy human livelihoods. As the fish disappear, fishermen are forced to adapt. They start hunting giant king crabs, an invasive species that has taken away their livelihoods. The Nordic Sea roared, waves as high as walls, wind whipped faces, temperature dropped by the minute, salt water froze on the deck. In the midst of that fury, people still went out to sea, not to find fish, but to hunt the giant king crab, who had turned the sea into a battlefield. Each ship is a small fortress in the midst of the howling northern storm. Waves were 3 stories high. The wind was cold and biting, and the metal on the deck groaned like dying steel. From the side of the ship, steel traps weighing more than 90 pounds were thrown into the deep sea, where light could not reach and the water was below 30 degrees Fahrenheit, cutting to the bone. There, just 1 second of carelessness, a rope slips from the hand. A loop of rope wraps around the ankle, and the person will be pulled straight down more than 1,000 feet of water, disappearing into the cold darkness without a sound. The winch screamed like tortured metal, the cable taut and shaking in the wind. Each trap pulled up weighed nearly 200 pounds, swinging in the foam and the 20-degree Fahrenheit wind. The whole deck shook as the wet iron mass slammed against the railing. Inside, giant king crabs thrashed violently. They extended their claws, more than 4 feet long, and thrashed so hard it sounded like iron rods hitting the hull. With just one swing, a human arm could be crushed. Blood, seawater, and snow mixed together on the icy deck. The fishermen had no time to be afraid. They bent down, pulling each crab out of the net, throwing them into the freezer while the wind whipped, the waves crashed, the boat tilted as if about to capsize. One person held the rope. One person stood on the winch. One person monitored the freezer temperature. Every movement had to be precise down to the second. One wrong step, and they lost their lives. The whole ship became a living machine, fighting between the storm and the sea. The sound of the engine mixed with the whistling wind, the rumbling of metal, the screams mixed with the frozen breaths of the men facing the angry ocean. Each trip out to sea, they pull up hundreds of crabs, each trap worth tens of thousands of dollars. But in the middle of this cold ocean, money cannot buy the certainty of tomorrow, because no one knows after the next storm, will the ship return, or will it lie forever under the black ice? Between the snow and darkness, each crab caught is a bet with death, while on the surface of the sea, people are still struggling to win each life. At the bottom of the ocean, it has gradually become silent. But as soon as the storm at sea subsided, another storm arose on shore, not of wind, but of money, cold steel, and a never-ending production line. Fishing boats dock in the morning mist. Coal holds open. Thousands of red crabs gleam under the mercury lamps. Crab blocks are unloaded, shipped straight to processing plants on the Norwegian coast, where cold, metal, and the smell of the sea mix into a thick atmosphere. The crabs are washed, cut, peeled, and frozen at negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit before being canned, vacuum sealed, and labeled for export. Each crate of crab costs thousands of dollars and is shipped to Tokyo, Seoul, New York, turning the invader into a world luxury. From rough seas to cold chain, the king crab's journey is the strangest story of modern times. An invasive species turned into gold, and an ecological disaster wrapped in commercial hype. Are humans controlling the crabs, or are they controlling us? Offshore, ships still set sail every morning. They continue to hunt king crabs, not only to make a living, but also to prevent the ocean from being swallowed completely. Norway was the first country to choose to turn fishing into a weapon. Instead of banning it, they expanded the fishing area, granting fishermen licenses to hunt crabs year-round. Boats that used to be fishing boats are now being converted into industrial crab hunting boats with positioning radar, automatic winches, and large capacity cold storage. The government hopes by turning crabs into profit, it can make people actively curb their spread. But the downside quickly appears. Crab prices skyrocket. Huge profits turn the hunt for survival into a commercial race. Fishermen go out to sea more often, deeper, and unintentionally open the way for crabs to spread further. A biological measure gradually becomes a red gold rush of the ocean, where greed and survival blend together without boundaries. Humans are trying to regain control of the oceans, but the deeper we get into this fight, the clearer it becomes. We're not just up against king crabs, we're up against our own mistakes. Perhaps the scariest thing is not that crabs have invaded Europe, but that they remind humans that nature always reclaims what belongs to it. The cold wind blew again, the ice melted, and somewhere deep under the water, the sound of crab claws tapping gently on rock like the silent heartbeat of a rising empire. Let's continue to open unexplored doors with Grand Discover. Leave a like, subscribe to the Grand Discover channel.